All right, let's call this briefing meeting to order. Thank you all for being with us today. Commissioners, are there any items other than those listed on the agenda which you would like to discuss at the briefing meeting today? All right, and we will follow this agenda. And the first item is a staff update on the Hurricane Helene recovery. And Avril is going to get us started, I think.
Thank you, sir. So commissioners, as we continue to respond and recover from Hurricane Helene, we will provide an update at our briefings every other week as well. So this is our first one. We'll start. Today, I'm going to provide an update on Hurricane Helene's impact on Buncombe County. The next slide, Nick. Detailing our immediate response efforts, progress in recovery, and our ongoing priorities as we move forward. Next slide. Here's a look at our disaster timeline and our preparedness actions to response milestones, and we will see it actually began before the storm. Our preferred preparedness efforts include the completion of our emergency operations plan and continuation of operations plan this past summer helped us set clear procedures. We continued and we could use those procedures to guide our response. These plans gave us a solid foundation, allowing us to activate early and communicate effectively when it mattered most. On September 25th, when the storm approaching, Commissioner Newman signed a state of emergency and declared a state of emergency in Buncombe County in partnerships with all of our municipalities. We also opened up our EOC. This early activation allowed us to get ahead of critical preparations, including public safety alerts to mobilizing resources. When Helene struck 2 days later, we were ready to respond immediately, issuing evacuation orders for targeted residents, opening shelters, and coordinated swift water rescues as conditions worsened. Over the next several days, we opened additional shelters and set up water distribution sites to help residents' urgent need. This effort was critical to try to stabilize the immediate post-disaster situations and protect lives. The presidential major disaster declaration September 29 allowed federal support to start flowing into Buncombe County. Since then, we've opened up additional shelters, shut up water distribution sites, and launched community care stations to support residents in need. Today, 7 weeks post-event, we are at the nexus of response, short-term recovery, and beginning steps of long-term recovery. Our focus as a team is shifting. Students have returned to work, to school, and we're starting to return to some normal ways of life. We're moving from an emergency response to recovery activities that will help our community heal and rebuild. This transition includes working closely with FEMA to process individual assistance applications, ensuring that financial aid reaches those affected, and beginning the process of securing additional grant funding through FEMA, public assistance, and other long-term programs. This timeline captures the stages we've moved through and the work that still lies ahead. The work of our Emergency Operations Center has been critical throughout each phase of this timeline. Let's take a closer look at the EOC's role and the way it has adapted to the demands of this event. Next slide. Our EOC has provided a backbone of our response and recovery effort since it was activated nearly 2 months ago. Operating across multiple locations to adapt to changing needs, the EOC primary goal has been safety of responders in our community, providing basic needs, building our community and stakeholders, keeping our community and stakeholders informed, developing a long-term recovery plan, debris management, and supporting our municipalities and partner agencies. Our team at the EOC has managed everything from rescue coordination and shelter operations to debris management, coordinating with municipalities and other partners as they restored critical infrastructure. This slide shows the different EOC locations we've grown into and out of while we settle in now at our College Street location. Next slide. Our initial response priorities focus on critical emergency and rescue efforts. By September 28th, our dispatch center had received over 5,500 calls to 911, with hundreds of swift water rescues on the way. We coordinated with 10 additional states and federal swift water rescue teams to support our local teams in these efforts. In the middle of widespread power outages impacting hundreds of thousands of households, We also contend with internet and phone service outages, major roadways. We had damage to water infrastructure across the county. Despite these challenges, our team worked tirelessly to clear routes, help restore power, and at our peak, we were sheltering 585 people. I want to just say thank you for that initial response to our staff. Next slide. That takes us through the timeline of our response so far. Now I'll focus on where we currently are in our recovery efforts and what's underway to support Buncombe County moving forward. Next slide. One of the top priorities have been ensuring access to water and sanitation through our points of distribution and community care stations. Since many areas were without water for several weeks, these stations have become essential for daily living needs. At comfort stations, we have provided showers, a place to do laundry, Wi-Fi access, and meals ready to eat. Public health is also front and center as we work to monitor for outbreaks and provide vaccinations with over 1,700 administered so far. And debris removal continues as we clear roadways and properties with almost 10 million cubic yards estimated countywide. Next slide. Temporary housing and displacement assistance remain a focus as well, providing safe shelter for those still unable to return home. We have 3,500 households approved for displacement assistance and 16 people in local hotels. We have completed our initial damage assessment with 214 linear miles of floodplain impacted. We have resumed county operations as much as we can at the moment, with several employees still working in emergency functions. Next slide. We know that true recovery goes beyond roads and bridges. It's about people and community resilience. Every aspect of our recovery is focused on community-centered approaches, starting with transparent and accessible communication. The Buncombe Call Center and our multilingual community briefings have provided a lifeline for residents seeking information and support. And our team have been able to reach many people where they are in a language that they can understand. Our website was completely redesigned to provide critical information in a new, streamlined format that minimizes bandwidth use. Our social media has been a hub for sharing and receiving information, allowing us to reach 2.6 million people through our outreach and connecting us to over 21,000 new followers. We've also distributed printed materials and launched mobile engagement efforts to reach residents across the county, including those without internet access. We are very mindful that those who have been the most or the worst impacted may also be have the least access. So we're considering the whole community in the design of all recovery programs. Throughout this process, we've been guided by Buncombe County's core values of respect, integrity, collaboration, honesty, and equity. Respect and equity drive us to consider the unique needs of each and every community member. Integrity and honesty guide our communication and resource distribution, while collaboration allows us to work closely with partners from across the country, as well as local organizations to help to provide targeted support for our emerging needs. By focusing on the how of our work, we've designed a model of recovery that's inclusive, transparent, and truly supportive of all residents as we move forward. We have been community-focused. We've embedded equity at every stage of our work. Those who are most impacted have the least access are considered in our designs of our programs. Next. I mentioned partners from across the country. We've received invaluable support from a wide network of partners, including resources from 38 different states. We work with 10 state and federal swiftwater rescue teams who join local responders, adding critical capacity during the height of the response. Additionally, the National Guard mobilized provide hands-on support that's wrapping up today. These resources have allowed us to be more comprehensively address the immediate need of our residents with plans for demobilization as we progress through recovery. Each of these partners have been instrumental, and we're grateful for their collaboration in making real progress in restoring services and supporting our community. Supporting our residents remain a top priority, and we're focused on making resources available to help them recover. At your regular meeting tonight, you will consider community relief programs that include grants for small businesses as well as individual and household assistance. So far, more than 49,000 households have been approved for FEMA individual assistance, with over 70 million in relief provided to date. FEMA has also approved more than 12 million in home repairs and residential assistance for nearly 2,200 households. The Buncombe Call Center continues to serve as a critical resource for those navigating these options. These resources are a lifeline for many in our community, providing the financial and practical support needed to get back on their feet. Next. The Hazard Mitigation Grant Program is a FEMA-funded initiative aimed to reducing or eliminating future damages and losses following a disaster. While federally funded, the program is managed by North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Division of Emergency Management. Applications will be open for up to a year. This data reflects applications of last week, where we had our initial on-site application. We had 582 applications from property owners offering assistance for various mitigation strategies, including the structure elevation, which is raising the building, structure reinforcement and strengthening to withstand natural disasters, property buyouts, purchasing damaged properties to reduce future risks. I want to remind everyone that participation in this program is entirely voluntary, and property owners may withdraw the application at any time. The data on the screen was earlier in the week when we first started, but when they wrapped up, they had actually 582 applications by Friday. Next slide. We've come a long way in the last 2 months to get past the peak of the emergency response. Now with recovery on the way, some of the resources we engage are demobilizing as we transition to a focus on short and long-term recovery. While we are progressing in recovery, several emergent issues require continued attention. We plan to return to Commissioners' briefing twice a month to share updates and discuss emergent issues. A key area is private property debris removal, or you hear us call it PPDR, which is essential in clearing residential areas. To make this process successful, we're coordinating a multi-channel application process. In a few minutes, I'll ask John Berry from Tetra Tech to share a little bit more about PPDR and that process. Another key area is assessing damage and cost estimates for public facilities and properties, including county parks, as well as issuing permits and conducting substantial damage assessments related to floodplains in compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program. We're also actively pursuing efforts related to securing public funding and collaborating with our nonprofit-led long-term recovery group. We're also beginning the phase demobilization of emergency support function. We're focusing on balancing these demobilizations with continued support for essential services, including ensuring a smooth transition into long-term recovery. As we move deeper into recovery, our work is becoming more specialized with the introduction of recovery support functions. This includes standing up interim recovery goals with alignment with FEMA and our community Pacific needs. There's 7 areas that we're focusing on, including debris management, economic revitalization, education, health and social services, housing, infrastructure and access, and the preservation of natural and cultural resources. So when we say debris management, we are working closely as well with the city of Asheville and our towns, along with the state and federal partners. When we say debris management, we're focusing on debris management, including finding solutions for debris removal on private property, private roads and bridges, evaluating hazardous material, consideration for debris removal, and exploring sustainable reuse of debris. Economic revitalization, focus on stimulating economic recovery, supporting local businesses, and ensuring the long-term economic stability and prosperity of the area. Education, focus on successful recovery and increased resiliency for education institutions, including childcare and early education. Health and social services, that's going to be focused on ensuring the health and well-being of residents. This includes addressing medical, public health, behavioral health, and environmental concerns, as well as ensuring social services needs are met. On the Housing Task Force, this is going to be focusing on rebuilding homes, addressing housing shortages, and ensuring the availability of affordable housing options for everyone in our community. Infrastructure and Access is focusing on restoring and enhancing essential public infrastructure systems, facilities, properties, and accessibility to the area. And Natural and Cultural Resources is focused on the sustainable management of natural and cultural resources, including historical properties. This includes coordinating capabilities to maintain, conserve, renew, and rehabilitate these resources. The folks that are in charge of debris management, that is Dane Peterson and Christy Smith. Economic Revitalization is Evie Otterstall. Education is Rafael Baptista. Health and Social Services is Dr. Ellis Matheson and Rebecca Smith. Housing is Matt Cable and Matt Card. Infrastructure, Nate Pennington and Matt Baker. And Natural Resources is Jennifer Harrison and Ariel Zeit. And before I open it up for, next slide. Before I open it up for questions, I'll ask John Berry from Tetra Tech, our recovery consultant, to share a little bit more about the PPPDR process.
Thank you. Is the mic on?
Yes.
Oh, excellent. All right. Thank you so much, Commissioners, and thank you, Avril, for the introduction here. My name is John Burry with Tetra Tech. I'm one of the directors of post-disaster programs. We are supporting Buncombe County with the administration of the private and commercial property debris removal program and demolition assistance. Buncombe County, the property owners in both unincorporated areas and certain cities that have been impacted by Hurricane Helene who do not have debris removal insurance or have exhausted their insurance, they may qualify and they may apply to qualify for disaster debris removal from their private property or small commercial business at no cost. The program also covers demolition of eligible unsafe structures. So when we talk about debris removal from a private property, we are talking about the removal of hazardous trees or mixed debris that have been caused directly by Hurricane Helene. That is near a maintained area or a commonly maintained area on that private or commercial property. This could also mean the removal of debris that is impacting a waterway. The demolition and removal of a structure that is a health hazard and has been deemed unsafe or unfit may also be covered under this program, and it may also include the concrete slabs. What this program doesn't typically include, and what it doesn't include, is debris on your vacant lots, your unimproved property, any land clearing type activities, or primarily land used for agricultural purposes, such as for crops or livestock. To apply or enter into the program, a right of entry form is needed. That form must be signed by all property owners and is legally required before contractors providing debris removal or demolition services can access the private property to even begin the eligibility determination process. To apply for the debris removal or demolition of unsafe structures on private property and commercial property, it's multifaceted. Number one, there's an online portal link at onebuncombe.org. It's on the splash page. It's the fourth blue box down. People can also call One Buncombe call center at 828-250-6100 and select option 2 for debris-related questions. Maybe questions associated with the debris program that's currently going on the right-of-way or on the private property debris removal program itself. People can also visit one of the 4 PPDR application centers. The first one is at the Asheville Mall Disaster Recovery Center, or DRC. It's located it's located there at the Asheville Mall, and it's open Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And these hours are going to adjust based on the DRC's hours. There are 3 additional sites that open today. They were open from Tuesday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Barnardsville Fire Department Station 15 at 100 Dillingham Road, the Swannanoa Fire and Rescue Center at 510 Bee Tree Road, and the 4th one is the Fairview Library at 1 Taylor Road. These open today. We will also have community canvassers that are going to be available at the pod or CCSs or other public meetings, or they may be out going door to door. And then we'll also be looking at other satellite locations for PPDR applications to be opened as necessary. So there's a number of different ways. What's important to note is that there are certain documents that you're going to have with you: a copy of your insurance policy or a proof of loss statement from your insurance company if you are insured, a color copy of your driver's license or valid U.S. government ID, such as a passport or a real ID, a proof of ownership, such as a warranty deed, tax assessment, some other record, and then finally a simple sketch of the property that are identifying the locations of the debris. Something as easy as a hand-drawn in a rectangle. It's something that we will be able to use to understand what the issues are. So for any questions, please call 828-250-6100 and select option 2, or you can visit the website. We even have developed frequently asked questions, or FAQs, that are also available for those individuals who are interested, those residents who are interested in the program. Thank you very much.
One question, I guess, just regarding the debris removal program. There's different, this is complicated. There's different types of debris. Some of it's easily picked up. Some of it involves demolition. There's tree root balls, for example. So I guess my question is kind of around like how much on-site work could be or would be expected to be done through this type of program, as opposed to just physically picking something up and taking it off property.
Sure. So that's a great question. So currently you have the right-of-way debris removal, and I know, Dane, you're the county's actively engaged, through the support of the Corps of Engineers for that program. That's where residents bring it out to the right-of-way, and that's ongoing right now. So when we talk about private property debris removal, it is that debris that is, quite frankly, beyond perhaps what that individual is capable or has the funds, or perhaps even some of the nonprofit organizations, volunteer organizations have the ability to get. So in that situation, the resident would apply. We would verify ownership. We would actually send an inspector out to map the area to understand where the debris is, whether that's still in the tree, where maybe it's a hazardous hanging limb, a leaning tree, a tree with an exposed root ball, and then that scope of work would be developed and then turned over to a contractor for removal. So again, this is a very rare program, and one that only gets undertaken in the worst of the worst disasters. So it's to help eliminate those public health and safety threats throughout the community.
Mine's just a more general question, and thanks for all this excellent information. It's a great update. Are you still wanting anyone in the community to do the property damage survey? Is that still open and you're still seeking that information?
It is still open, and they can still upload pictures if they have damage to their property or houses or trees down. They can still upload those pictures and we can access those. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and is there any other information like that that you're still needing that we can help you get that information out to the community?
I think right now we would like people to still apply to, if it's going to be to disasterassistance.gov, if they haven't done that yet to FEMA, that is still important for them to do. And if they do have, one question that did come up, and I want to raise it now for you, John, was if there's just trees down in the backyard and it's not blocking any access, would you get those large trees as well?
That's a great question. So in those situations where there are large trees down, I would certainly recommend to apply. Those will have to be determined on a case-by-case basis. You have to understand, again, where the maintained area was, and again, if it's near a home or near an outbuilding, something that is regularly used in an area, those are the ones that you could receive assistance.
Thank you. And Commissioner, back to your question then on the other thing I would want people to know, if they do have a road or out, the private roads and bridges, that has now been activated. So if they would go to disasterassistance.gov, again, the FEMA website, they can apply for that on an individual basis.
All right, other questions, commissioners? All right, thank you for the update and presentation. This is just a huge need in the region, of course, and And it's just also like a very expensive problem for a lot of property owners and just for, especially in the moment we're in, just, it's going to be beyond the resources a lot of folks have to be able to, handle directly themselves. So all the support and resources around this is really, really appreciated. So thank you for everything everyone's doing on that effort. All right. Other questions? Okay, Arvel, thanks. Thank you for being here. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the shared leave policy update.
Good afternoon, commissioners. I don't know if it's going to come up on the screen or not. Well, I'll start and then Amy will take over anyway. I'm Karen Marshall. I'm the interim human resources director. And just to open up, before we go into the policy, wanted to just share that as HR began to look at ways that we can assist our county employees who've been impacted by the effects, there we go, the hurricane, we just thought, as we thought of different ways we can assist them, one of the things that came to our attention was that a number of our employees who either exhausted their annual leave or have been here a short period of time and just haven't accrued enough annual leave, need time to take off to address issues surrounding the damage that's been done to their property, their rental property or even their homes that they own. So we looked at the option of shared leave, and that's the policy that we're presenting to you today. The purpose of the policy, as it's stated, is to have a shared leave program that allows employees to donate annual leave to the shared leave bank. And I'm going to have Amy go into a little bit more why it has to be a bank opposed to individual. But the shared leave bank for the purpose of assisting eligible employees that have exhausted their applicable leave balance and are in need of additional leave due to the impacts of the storm. So instead of going on into the support employees while remaining compliant with the IRS regulations related to the leave sharing program, I'm going to have Amy go through the policy proposal, and then we'll entertain any questions that you may have. Amy. Switch that around.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Davis. I'm the county's Employee Relations Manager, and I'm happy to see you this afternoon. Like Karen said, we know that there are many employees who've been impacted in various ways from Hurricane Helene, and sadly, we know that there are some employees who've suffered some really significant personal losses or damages or devastation. So currently, we have a small number of employees who have depleted their accrued annual leave or accrued applicable leave balances due to the storm, and there are others that may do so in the future. We've also had employees who have, if you'll hit the next slide, who have offered, who have volunteered, and asked if they could share their own leave that they've accrued. I'll do it myself. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't see it. Here we go. We've had employees who have asked if there's a way that they can donate their own accrued leave to their colleagues who are in need. And so this policy is hoping to establish just that type of program and to ensure compliance with the IRS rules related to leave sharing programs in response to major disasters. So for the purpose of this policy and under the IRS rules, an employee is considered to have been adversely affected if the impact of Hurricane Helene caused significant hardship to the employee or their family that caused the employee to be absent from work. So that's the definition we would use. This policy would create a shared leave bank that would be managed by HR and ensure that both the employees who are donors or recipients remain confidential. The intention would be this would be a time-limited program as required by the IRS rules, and we would expect it to conclude at the end of the fiscal year. Any remaining leave at that time would be returned to donors at a proportional rate. So in order to receive leave, we would require that employees, one, be in a position that is eligible to accrue leave, two, employees would have to have exhausted their applicable paid leave, and three, they would have to complete an application or request process and provide supporting documentation. once approved, employees would be eligible to receive up to 80 hours of leave that would have to be used specifically for the purposes of recovery-related activities. And in order to donate leave, we would require that employees complete a voluntary donation form. And employees could donate up to the amount of annual leave they accrue on on an annual basis. And let's see, they would have to maintain a balance of at least 80 hours of annual leave at the time of their donation. So before we move forward with these next steps, we wanted to come to you and get your input and feedback about this. As you know, we typically have a very robust policy review process, and things come to you in very neat, complete packages. But at this point, we wanted to hear from you and get your support before we move forward with determining all of these next steps and figuring out specific policies or specific procedures and working out all the details. So we know that we have a lot more to do, but our intention is to try to get this, to make this available to employees as soon as possible.
Thank you, Amy. I have a couple of questions. First, thank you for looking out for employees in this way. This has just been such a devastating time for so many, and expecting folks to have time to take off is challenging. I'm curious, and maybe, I don't know, I'm curious why we have to look at a shared leave policy versus a special category of disaster leave in the time of an emergency, of a disaster. I would prefer for folks not to have to donate their time in a disaster and create just a special leave category that would not roll over, that would not be paid out upon, departure from Buncombe County as an employee. And is there a reason why we didn't go down that path and we looked at shared leave instead?
I think that's something we could absolutely look into. I think our approach was to look at the existing policies that we have in place. We currently have a voluntary shared leave policy that's geared towards employees who have prolonged medical conditions. And so we were using that as a model. And then we were aware of the IRS regulations for this specific leave sharing for major disasters and took that approach. And so there isn't a specific limitation that prevented us from doing that. It was just the way that we went about it.
I don't want to prolong people having time to take off, but I would prefer a different look at the leave versus asking others to give up their time during a disaster. I'm fully aware as a state employee how the shared leave works. I know sometimes the state also does, as state employee, allocate special leave for whatever reason. So if there's consensus to look at this maybe through a different lens, I would like to do that, but it's just my opinion today.
Thanks, Commissioner. And I'll verify to your point, if the person worked during the storm, they did get special leave that they could take later. So the hurricane assistance leave that you're mentioning was really a tool that we use for folks that had to come in and actually work while others were at home. So it seemed as if a benefit. So if you were actually working in the EOC or at the pods or at the CC station, you did get some additional leave, and then you can take that off. So it was almost like an incentive that we need for you to come in and help us work. For those that didn't come in and work, we did not give that leave to those people. So I just want to make sure there's a difference. So if you're creating another leave structure, we just want to make sure we still have an incentive for people to come and volunteer to work and then be able to then take off and take care of their own personal issues. And we didn't ask people to give up their shared leave. That is a voluntary program. So lots of employees actually volunteered and said, hey, I would love to give the time that I actually have on the books, but now it's only limited to sick leave if you're out for a long-term sickness. And that's what we're asking, can we expand that long-term sickness and add the additional, because employees are willing to donate that leave. But right now, we are limited and restricted that you can only donate for an illness. So the ask now for you to consider would be to add the hurricane relief as well.
It doesn't have to be an exact number, but just ballpark, like of the overall total number of employees, how many got the additional for working during the emergency response? Just
From working in the shelters to working the pods, they're still working pods on Sundays, Saturdays and Sundays now till 7 p.m. to make sure residents have access. So those employees that are driving, we have librarians that have been trained to drive forklifts and they're working and the warehouses and stuff. So those employees all had the incentive that if you come in outside when everybody was closed and working at home, you can come and do this. We'll give you that hurricane
Yep.
leave.
So maybe several hundred employees qualify for that benefit.
I would say so.
Okay, but that would still mean like maybe over 1,000 county employees wouldn't be in that group. And I'm just, trying to think about, I mean, I'd like the idea. Also, we want to get this in place, as soon as we can,
Yes.
right? So, but the majority of county, what I wanted to clarify is the majority of county employees wouldn't have qualified for that additional benefit for the emergency hurricane response, right? It would be, it's hundreds,
one's-
but I mean, we have how many employees does the county have?
Including our sheriff's office,
Yeah.
about 1,800.
Right. So,
I couldn't get you exactly how many people actually work, but I knew we had a lot of employees. I'm saying hundreds, but I couldn't tell you how many hundreds of them actually came out and worked and assisted our residents in the need. But we can certainly look at an option where we can create another leave for employees that have exhausted their other leave that still need help to go home and take care of things. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Do you
would
have
be
a
two that-
sense? I'm sorry, do you have a sense of how many employees still
Need
have
that.
a need?
There's a small number right now, I would say less than a dozen.
Okay.
We know that that may change as this is going to be extended recovery process.
one of the concerns I have is, say if I'm an employee and my home was destroyed or washed away, well, I don't have time to come in and work because I'm busy trying to survive, make sure my family's taken care of or whatever I need to do. I like your approach, Amanda, because I don't want to penalize anybody who needs a service. And two, when you start doing that, if they have a major illness, their time can be gone. I worked for a large corporation, and when we had a disaster, it was separate. We had hurricanes all over the East Coast, forest fires out west when we went out there. But in a case like this, I don't know how we did it at the bank, but it was separate. We would take it a case by case basis and look at it.
all right, any other thoughts on this?
I guess one question, Commissioner Edwards, or for someone, you sort of alluded to maybe there's a state policy, a state personnel policy of some kind related to
So as a,
similar thing, or no?
that's just my experience as a state employee, that sometimes there has been special leave allocated, usually in lieu of a raise to state employees. But there's usually an extra 5, 6, 7 days. On occasion, that's added to a bill somewhere in the legislature. And it's time specific, that you have a specific fiscal year to use it or you lose it in that case. So typically just a benefit, if that's what you want to call it, to state employees. But just thinking kind of in terms of that direction, that there, at least on a state level, is a precedence for a special category of leave. And thinking in terms of, this is a special circumstance, I think.
Just to,
And those folks who came into work, I'm so sorry, Chair Newman, those folks who came into work are probably also still dealing too with potential needs for time off
Majority of them
above
that-
and beyond the
Mhm.
time that they have earned. So thinking a bit broader in how we can support our workforce during a disaster is where I'm coming from with this. Certainly not to prolong the time off option. I know people need it and I need it quick, and they need it quickly. Just want to be cognizant that this is a special circumstance.
Understood.
and Commissioner Edwards, just to make sure I'm kind of hearing your concept right. So the idea, if we didn't go down this path, would be, in light of the widespread impacts from this storm, we are going to provide X number of additional days off for county employees who were impacted by the storm, and
Right, and need to meet
something like
with
that.
insurance adjusters or general contractors or what have you to, to get back on their feet or rebuild homes.
Okay. All right, so you heard some ideas, so think about all this, and it sounds like everyone's in agreement. We want to provide some option, so feel free to bring back thoughts on different pathways to.
Will do.
All right, thanks, everyone. All right. Next item is the FCC update. And it looks like Dane Peterson is here to help us out.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good afternoon. As a reminder, we are on the cusp of a new contract with FCC Environmental Services, and that contract date starts January 1st, coming up here in 2025. So there's going to be a lot of movement on this contract, thinking about the transition terms with carts being removed, carts being placed. There's a lot of work fixing to start out in the communities. I know we're all going to get a lot of questions and phone calls, those type of things. We want to try to make sure you have as much information as possible as our community or as we're getting underway with this transition. Charles, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, sir. Charles Merkley with FCC is attending virtually today. And Charles, I've got the slide advancer, so just let me know. And appreciate, Charles, if you want to discuss transition, where we're at in the process with the new contract.
Sure. Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Commissioners, County staff. Good to be back with you. I'm Charles Merkley, Vice President of Business Development for FCC Corporation. And we're working very closely with staff, and I want to go through a little PowerPoint that gives you an idea where we're at. So the first one up on the screen, you can see the different categories that we've been working with. Our team has been very closely working with your staff at the MAG meetings in the last few weeks. So everything is moving along nicely. So Dane, if you could advance one, please. So we want to talk about the equipment and make sure everybody's on the same page and understand where we're at with the equipment so there's no worries. This is just a little chart that breaks down the type of equipment we use. Everyone in our business have acronyms, but an ASL is an automated side loader. REL is a rear load type loading truck. And then a pup truck is what you see in the picture. That's a 4-wheel drive, specialized and weighted so we can go up and not do damage to some of the roadways and be able to have traction with a 4-wheel drive. It's clearly a specialized piece of equipment. We can put 2 people in there, and you're also able to have the helper on the back when they're doing house to house. Then again, we'll have the pickup trucks for our route managers or supervisors out in the street, a service truck to maintain all of our equipment that are on the road. If we were to have a flat tire or some kind of a mechanical mishap on the road, we have a service truck that can go directly to them, for a total of 37 vehicles for this contract. And if you go by our property on Sweeten Creek Road, you'll see several of them are sitting in the parking lot now. So next slide, please. So let's talk about the cart delivery. I know there's a lot of discussion around carts and how about and what different sizes, and that's understandable. We are going to use a national vendor called WasteQuip. The company that does the actual carts and makes them are called Toter. You can see them at Home Depot, and you can also see them on the streets of unincorporated Buncombe County now. We were able to work with the county to get a beautiful storage site up at the fire training location on Riverside Drive, and we really appreciate the folks working with us there. Currently, we have carts on site which says 10,000, but I've updated. It's over 13,000 now since we prepared this slide. We have tractor trailers coming in there daily, and we have WasteQuip and Container Pro that are working for us to unload and prepare for deployment. A lot of calls and questions about bear carts, which is also understandable. The important thing to take away is FCC will dump any type of bear cart that is made. So there's a couple things that go with that. If it's dumped by an automatic side loader, which is a truck that comes up and grabs it and dumps it. There are carts that we have, your current hauler has, and many others that have a locking device that opens up with gravity, and that way there's no productivity loss. The lid opens, the car dumps, and the way it goes. Now, people that have a manual type locking device on their carts, many of those areas are in our little specialized trucks areas that we showed, and they will be able to get out and unlatch it. So the key takeaway, if it's dumped automatically, it needs to be gravity type lock. And if it's manual and our trucks are dumping it in the rear loaders, our team members will unlatch them, dump them, and put it back. Next slide, Dave, please. Did I lose you?
Nope, got you.
There we go. Thank you. So it's important about how we're gonna go about this delivery plan, and working with staff, we work very closely and tediously on how we want to go about this, and obviously the devastating storm made some major changes of how we go about deployment. But in an overview, our cart teams can do up to 2,200 carts a day, so that's multiple teams, 8 to 10 teams that are out there doing this. And our goal is to have the carts retrieved by your current service provider, and then we follow behind and deliver a cart. And the purpose is that is try to avoid 3 to 4 carts on the property that already may be congested with other debris or what may be there. So that's the idea. Our plan is to start coming shortly in December, the week of December 2nd. And you can see on the screen there the different areas of how we plan to go. We will be publishing this to some of the local newspapers along with our websites and links. So that kind of gives you a good idea how we're going to do it. And we understand Monday through Friday, but this doesn't follow a Monday through Friday approach because of some of the accessibilities of where we're going. So we've been out scouting, and Lewis Knight, our general manager, knows these streets well. So we developed this schedule to be able to get to the quickest response to the homes that can get carts right away. Next slide, please, Dave. So personnel, that's always a big piece, trucks, people, and property. So the property I mentioned is on Sweet Creek Road, 3109. That's in the process of getting renovated. But this is a look at our employee count. And this is actually, again, out of date because currently downtown, we're having a job fair going in the Holiday Inn, not far from where you're at. And these are a list of drivers hired. And when you see interview process, that means they are been interviewed. We do extensive backgrounds, drug testing if they're DOT qualified. And that kind of gives you an idea. You need a total of 45 people. When you see the LP, that is our partner. They're called Lead Point. They help us with administrative and the actual helpers that assist the drivers. So all in all, we are at 40, but I'm being told we hired 3 or 4 more people today at the job fair. So that will change that number. So that will be up to somewhere around 43. So with that, we are very, very close to what we need. We always overhire, and we will continue to hire during the process, but we have been very successful. And I think we told you in the process all along that our recruiting drive is very vigorous. We're currently there with our HR team now. Again, Lewis and some of our team members are doing interviews along with our HR teams. So we are very, very happy with the response of employees that are under the FCC umbrella today. Next slide, please. So again, communications has always been one of our key topics that we've been talking about at MAG meetings with the communication department and the managers there. Just to bring you up to date, we did send a mailer, to all the unincorporated residents. And the reason for that is we want everybody to have the opportunity to have the service. We understand currently that the subscriber list is not every available home, but we want them to have the ability to sign up and get the service if they so desire. The second mailer, again, we're planning to send out next week. And we will have 2 versions for those that are existing subscribers. and those that are not. So the message is a little different, but all in all, we have a website with a portal where you can go sign up. We understand there's been a lot of questions and a lot of concerns about credit cards and things of that nature. So we've tried to be very nimble on being able to identify that, work with the residents so they're comfortable with the process. We've also planned on putting flyers at community centers. We did the July 4th blast that we had previously, the fireworks, and then, flyers we can make in any language we need. This is the language that was a consensus that we felt that we need. And any other outreach or any other opportunities, community events we can get in front of, basically roughly 6 weeks away from start. And these are just a couple of the draft samples of what we mailed out. A lot of you may have seen these. We still have more mailers to go. We still have half-page ads to go in the newspaper. So a lot of information still to come in the next 6 weeks. Next slide, please. That brings us to some day changes. So we spent a lot of time with our routing team, along with the county staff, and there were some imbalances that we consensually all felt that there was a need to balance. Like you can see on the screen, most of that was over in the 3 HOAs, some of the bigger areas that our general manager Lewis has spoke with, both Biltmore, Rambles, and the Cliffs, and they're on page as far as I know on that. So the majority of those in those 3 areas. But we have many different ways of how we're going to go about notifying them. When we deliver the cart, there will be informational packet that's with the cart. Again, we will notify the HOAs as we did. Generally speaking, that's a one bill, one contact situation, but not always. It'll be posted on our website. We're able to go onto the link in your website as well. They can click on it. It will show a map of Buncombe County. It will show the shaded colors associated with the collection days. And if you zoom in close enough, you can actually see streets. So it clearly depicts where I could get my service and what days and what type of service I get. So with that, that's kind of a quick overview of where we're at. There's a lot of work yet to go. I'm available, our team are available for any questions. We would entertain anything you may have at this time.
Thank you, Charles. Commissioners, any questions or clarifications at this point?
Doesn't look like it. All right, thank you for the updates. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for being with us on this item. All right, commissioners, that completes everything on our agenda for the briefing meetings. So let's adjourn and we will reconvene at 5 o'clock for the regular meeting.